I've preached a lot of sermons. I've done a lot of slides and talking and things and that type of stuff. And one of the challenges I think that people have talked to me about is I could never do that. I could never stand up and preach, or I could never stand up and teach, or whatever. And that may be true. And as we just kind of got done talking about, we have less and less elders and deaconesses in our church. Today's just going to be a little bit different. It's a little more of an interactive. And so see what you guys think about it. And it's designed to be less preparation on my part, less preparation for the person who is leading out. But just a little comment on maybe what the church is today. In 2000, since I'm the oldest church member, I'm not the oldest church member. I've been here the longest, I should say that. I'm not the oldest church member. In 2005, when I came to church, there was 3 women and Roy Dickey. There was Berdella, there was Catherine, and there was Roy's wife, but there was one more.
I was here.
And yeah.
Not at first.
Not at first. You guys were later. But anyway, and I remember having Sabbath school with the 3 of us back there in the back, and the pew was turned around, and I just kind of kept praying, Lord, is this my church? Is this it? What am I going to do with my kids? What am I going to? 3? 3? And so, as time goes on, God blesses, God encourages, God draws, and people came to church, people came back to church, and by 2010, somewhere in there, maybe 12, we had probably 40 to 50 people on a Sabbath. It was kind of a decent Sabbath. We had lots of elders and teachers and preachers and helpers and etc. We had children's story. The whole front pew was full. And it's not that way now. Does that mean God's not here? Does that mean God's not working? Does that mean that somehow we're wrong? Am I less blessed today to be in church because it's not as many people than I was, in 2010 or even back to 2005? And the answer is no. The answer is that it needs to look a little different. When Roy Dickey was in charge and, there was 3 people in church, it was pretty simple. But that's not all wrong. You can still get a blessing and encouragement. And so it kind of gets back to the fundamentals. What is church for? And, there's a lot of definitions of why we come to church, and what, you go to the biblical definition. They came and they had some teaching, and they ate some food, and they encouraged each other. To me, it comes down to 2 things. Number 1, you have to worship God. And number 2, you're here for encouragement of others. Because you can worship God on your living room. 3VN is everywhere. YouTube has tons of videos and sermons and things. So why come here? Because I get a blessing when you're here. You can't bless me from your home. So that's why I come to church. That's why I'm here. And so, anyway, I'm going to try out just a little bit of different here. What, essentially, if I can keep this, I'd like to have this in my hand as well as keep my phone on. But I'm struggling a little bit with that. Let's try this a little bit again. You need your Bibles, and you have to be a part of this. Let's see here. There we go. You got to have your Bibles. 2 Chronicles 20 is where we're going to read from today. Now, if I could, where's my wireless mic? Here it is. I'm going to have to take this with me. 2 Chronicles 20 is where we're going to be reading from today. And so The first thing we're going to do, like I said, this is not a sermon. It's kind of traditional. This is more of a maybe a teaching style of preaching. So 2 Chronicles 20. Let's read this together. So everybody have 2 Chronicles 20. You have to go to the Old Testament. And it's Chronicles is, there you go, turn that down a little bit. Chronicles is, okay, what's Chronicles about?
It's history.
It's history. History of what? History of gold trade in China? History of the atomic bomb? What is it history of? History of Judah. Yes. What is Judah? Not something that you do like kicking people and punching them. That's Judah. This is Judah. So what's Judah? Judah's a tribe, yes. And what else? Describe Judah.
God's tribe.
God's tribe, right? Where did Judah come from? Judah came from Israel, yes. And why is Judah and Israel separate? Because they split. Why did they split? Yeah, they couldn't agree on a king. They couldn't agree on what place to worship. So we are going to be in 2 Chronicles 20, and this is talking about a king in the tribe of Judah. And if I had it figured out, if I would have spent some more time, I would have put a picture up there. Judah is where in relation to the nation of Israel at this time? Judah is south, right? Where is Judah in terms of Israel today on the map? What's that? What? Yeah, where's Judah? We just talked about, so Israel is getting bombed by Lebanon, right, up north. And so where is Israel in relation to this right now? Judah. What? It's what? You're close. The west part is called the West Bank of Israel, yeah. But where is Judah in relation to Israel today? It's the same. It's the same place. All right. Not that I found that was crazy interesting, but it's just relational. It's the same place. This is exactly it. We're going to be talking about that. Okay, I want somebody to read the first 3 verses, and let's just see if we can maybe go around the room, maybe a little bit, and read the whole chapter of 2 Chronicles, because it's kind of important to what we're talking about today. So, Sherry, maybe you could read the first 3 verses, 2 Chronicles 20, 1 through 3, and then we'll have Kylie read 3 through 6, and then kind of keep going.
After this, the Moabites and Ammonites, together with some of the Meunites, came to fight against Jehoshaphat. People came and told Jehoshaphat, "A vast number from beyond the Dead Sea and from Edom has come to fight against you. They are already in Hazan Tamar." Jehoshaphat was afraid, and he resolved to seek the Lord. Then he proclaimed a fast for all of Judah, who gathered to seek the Lord.
That's verse 3. So, what did we learn so far?
We're in trouble.
So, Jehoshaphat is the king of Judah, and he is alarmed by a report from one of his scouts. What's the alarm report from the scouts? The armies are coming! And which army is coming?
Syria.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of them, right? They all got together. That's the Ammonites and the Mennonites and the Micronites and, I don't know, Edomites. I don't know. There are a lot of ites coming together to make war with the Judah, right? So what else? So the king finds out about this vast army that's coming to kill him. What does he do? He seeks the Lord. Good. Kylie, 3 through 6. 4 through 6, sorry.
In the course of time, war broke out with the Philistines at Gezer. In time,
Wait a minute. 2 Chronicles 20, verse 4.
Definitely said 24.
20, verse 4.
The people of Judah came together to seek help from the Lord. Indeed, they came from every town of Judah to seek him. And Jehoshaphat stood up in the assembly of Judah and in Jerusalem at the temple of the Lord in front of the new courtyard and said, Lord, the God of our ancestors, are you not the God who is in heaven, who rule over all the kingdoms of the nations? Power and might are in your hand, and no one can withstand you.
Okay, what do we learn now from the story? What happened so far?
King goes to God for support because he knows that God can do all things.
Isn't that awesome? The armies are coming, and they're coming to kill him, and the king is like, okay, so if you're a king, do you think it's cool to be powerful? I mean, is that something you want, like, to put a notch on the wall? I think every single king out there has an ego the size of Texas, and they want to feel really, 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 really powerful. I mean, look at our politicians today. I mean, you gotta ask, like, why are you in politics? Well, because they want a lot of power and ego. You know, they feel like they're invincible. And so Jehoshaphat is the king, and so when the army comes to attack them, what's the first thing he said? I'm high and mighty Jehoshaphat. I have big, not cannon. What would you have? Cannons? You wouldn't have tanks. What would you have? I have big, mighty horses. No, what does he do? He prays. Isn't that awesome? All right, and now we're going to read about what he prays about. Who do we have next? Emma? Where were we at there? I can't remember. 3 verses.
Finish the prayer, through 9. Okay.
O our God, did you not drive out those who lived in this land when your people Israel arrived? And did you not give this land forever to the descendants of your friend Abraham? Your people settled here and built this temple to honor your name. They said, whenever we are faced with any calamity, such as war, plague, or famine, we can come and stand in your presence before this temple, where your name is honored. We can cry out to you to save us, and you will hear us and rescue us.
So, yeah, that's good. Thank you. What did we learn in that portion?
They're reminding God of his covenant with them that will protect them whenever anything comes against them. They come to a certain place.
Yeah. Lord, you're a man of your word. You said to reach out to you if we had any problems or issues. It's time, God, to step up and solve this issue and solve this problem. And then they remind him, like Carrie said, in the past, you drove out the inhabitants of this land for us and gave it to us for a reason. You didn't bring us here to make a burial site or a mass grave. Lord, time to step up. Right? All right, somebody else, what do we have there? 10 through 12?
But now here are men from Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, whose territory would not allow Israel to invade when they came from Egypt. So they turned away from them and did not destroy them. See how they are repaying us by coming to drive us out of the possessions you gave us as an inheritance. Our God, will you not judge them? For we have no power to face this vast army that is attacking us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you.
Oh, that's good. What do we learn there? Caleb or Cindy or David, what do we learn from that one?
No, we don't know what to do. We're asking you.
They feel powerless. What else? There's a little bit of something else in there. Yeah, their eyes are on Christ. That's really, their eyes are on God. That's really, really good. But what else?
They feel a little guilt.
Yeah.
You gave it to us and you're letting them take it.
I mean, you told us not to invade these ites, you know, I don't know, Edomites, Milonites, or whatever these ites were. You told us not to invade them. You said, this is your dirt, don't go there. And we trusted you. And now it looks like we should have went off and killed them all because they're trying to kill us.
It's the prayer of last resort, that's what we do when we don't have any other solutions.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
ask and God will execute judgment on it.
Hey, yeah. Jehoshaphat's like, come on, God, now's the time to get your lightning bolts sharpened. Okay, this is really good. Okay, 13, 14, 15. Who is Meg?
All the men of Judah with their wives and children and little ones stood there before the Lord. Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jahaziel, son of Zechariah, the son of Benaniah, the son of Jael, the son of Mattaniah, a Levite and descendant of Asaph, as he stood in the assembly. He said, "Listen, King Jehoshaphat, and all who live in Judah and Jerusalem. This is what the Lord says to you. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of this vast army, for the battle is not yours, but God's."
All right. Now, tell me what we learned.
Spirit of God showed up in the whole congregation, amongst the children, women, and the men, telling them that they will not be destroyed.
Yeah, is it by chance that they said that the kids were there? Why bring the kids?
Because worship and prayer is a lifestyle. The whole family.
Yeah. Teach these kids about God. Teach these kids what it means to pray and to worship. And who's and what did the dude that stood up? What did he say? What was his message? Not yours. You know, hold fast. God will deliver. God will protect you from this troubles. Moving on here, what are we, 16, 17, 18? Cindy.
Tomorrow go down against them. They will surely come up with accents of Sis, and you will find them at the end of the brook before the wilderness of Jeruel. You will not need to fight in this battle. Position yourself, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord who is with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Do not fear or be dismayed. Tomorrow go against them, for the Lord is with you. 18.
I can stop there. So, who's this guy that stood up and said, "Fear not, God's with you"? He got quite a pedigree, didn't he? Son of Zechariah, son of Benaiah, son of Jeriel, son of Maniah, son of the Levite and Espai, and all that. Why did they do that? Why go through all of that pedigree?
Trace the lineage back to a certain king.
Give him credibility. Give him credibility.
That way they know where it comes from.
Yeah, because what does he say? What is he telling the people? There's some pretty specific details here, right?
Stand down. You can go watch, but stand down.
Yeah. I mean, go to this spot, be here, look here, and watch what God's going to do. What? Don't be afraid. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. 18, 19, 20 would be Isabella.
And Jehoshaphat bowed his head with his face to the ground, and all of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem bowed before the Lord, worshiping him. Then the Levites of the children of the Chronicles and of the children of Korah stood up to praise the Lord God of Israel with voices loud enough. So they rose early in the morning and went out into the wilderness to Korah. And as they went out, Jehoshaphat stood and said, "Hear me, O Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, and the kingdom shall be established. Believe his prophets, and he shall prosper."
Very good. Very good. Okay. So what did they do?
Rose in the morning.
They got up in the morning, and then they went out. But how did they go out? Singing and praising. That's pretty daunting, isn't it? I mean, if you heard a singing band's coming to your house, you'd be like, "Oh man, I better lock the door for that one."
And do you think they felt like praising God?
No.
I mean, it almost feels presumptuous, but I mean,
Well, even in verse 18, they fell on their faces before the Lord, and then somebody stood up and started singing, give thanks to the Lord for his love endures forever by, I don't know, what's that guy's name who created that song? I mean, that's kind of cool, isn't it? They're out and singing. Here's where the cool part comes in. 22, oh wait a minute, where are we at? 19? 21, 22, and 23.
And when he had consulted the people, he appointed those who should sing to the Lord, and who should praise the beauty of holiness, as they went out before the army, and were saying, Praise the Lord, for his mercy endures forever. Now when they began to sing and to praise, the Lord set ambushes against the people of Ammon, Moab, and Seir, who had come against Judah, and they were defeated. For the people of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Moab and Seir, to utterly kill and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, they helped to destroy them.
So as they're singing and they're worshiping God, they come up, and I don't have this in a picture format, but so the West Bank is kind of right now in rubble, right? Hezbollah is there, and there's a lot of tunnels, and Israel's like bombing the snot out of it. And then you go, there's a little bit more dirt as you go east, and then if you go all the way east, you have the Dead Sea, right? And so in between there, there's some terrain. And instead of going to Germany, we were supposed to go to Israel to see this terrain and actually kind of see kind of what this is, but it's not really safe. There's a pass in between the Dead Sea and modern day Israel where there's like a little bit of a mountain range and a valley. And so that's the spot that they're talking about in here, where the Israelites are up here and they're singing and they're looking down into this valley. And as they look down into this valley, they start seeing these armies just start killing each other. Basically, they've kind of turned on each other. And so all the various army groups or army tribes just start slaughtering other army tribes. All right, verse, where do we, Tanya, 24, 25, 26.
When Judah came to the watchtower of the wilderness, they looked toward the horde, and behold, there were dead bodies lying on the ground. None had escaped. When Jehoshaphat and his people came to take their spoil, they found among them in great numbers goods, clothing, and precious things, which they took for themselves until they could carry no more. They were 3 days in taking the spoil, it was so much. On the 4th day they assembled in the valley of Barakah, for there they blessed the Lord. Therefore the name of that place has been called the Valley of Barakah to this day.
Okay, so what did we learn now?
They didn't have to do anything.
No, they just watched it. And
They took the spoils.
when they came down from the top, they went down there. Everybody's dead. They didn't have to draw a sword or nothing. So what did God do after that? What did they do after they saw all the dead people?
They started getting their stuff.
Yeah, they grabbed their stuff, their chariots, their horses, their plunder. I don't know what that means. I don't know, maybe they got some good Yeti coolers out of it. I don't know. What did they bring to the battlefield? So they took it all back to the valley of Barakah. And what did they do in the valley of Barakah?
Bless the Lord, verily.
Yes. Bless the Lord. Bless the Lord. And then I'm going to, well, actually, Evan, why don't you read to 30, I think is what it is? 27, 29, 30, yeah.
Then led by Jehoshaphat, all the men of Judah and Jerusalem returned joyfully to Jerusalem, for the Lord had given them cause to rejoice over their enemies. They entered Jerusalem and went to the temple of the Lord with harps and lutes and trumpets. The fear of God came upon all the kingdoms and the countries when they heard how the Lord had fought against the enemies of Israel. And the kingdom of Jehoshaphat was at peace, for his God had given him rest on every side.
Okay, so they brought the plunder back to the camp, and Jehoshaphat led them, and they returned joyfully, and they had lots of, praises and thanksgiving and all that stuff. And the kingdom of Jehoshaphat was at peace, for his God had given them rest on every side. Okay. Question for you. What does trusting in God and relying on Him look like in real life? We heard a story from Jehoshaphat, how the Israelites, or the nation of Judah, trusted in God. What's it look like for you? I mean, we talk about it, we sing about it, we pray about it. Peace? Okay, good. What else?
When you're confronted with a problem, you find ways to praise God.
Okay. In adversity, you find ways to find peace, find joy. Praise God. Anybody else? What about when money troubles happen? I have a tenant. So I'm mowing grass over on 8th Avenue, and I call it the triangle because at the very, very end there's a triangle piece of grass, and it's a drainage ditch. Not really for much anything else. Anyway, it fills up with water when a lot of rain happens, and I go there and mow once in a while, just because it looks better. So I'm over there, and Sherry sends me a text message, hey, the dishwasher's not working. Can you go in there and check it out? So I did, and it's not good. I don't think they swept the floor in 6 months. The dishes are piled up high. There's flies. There's lots of badness. They're behind on their rent. They haven't paid for the last month and a half or 2 months or something. And so, anyway, ended up replacing the dishwasher. And we talked to him a little bit. But what does it mean to follow God when you're 2 months behind on your rent? What does it mean to follow God when you are diagnosed with cancer or heart stent or, I don't know, anything? How does that work? I mean, it's okay to talk about it, but if it doesn't work tomorrow or Tuesday or Friday, is it really faith?
If you look at faith, it is when the answer is no to all your prayers, when you ask.
Is it easier to trust God in the mundane times, the routine times, or the stressful and hard times? All right. Is it easier to trust in God in the mundane times, the kind of routine, like every day, like Sherry, you're curling your hair, put your makeup on, and all that stuff? Are you trusting in God then, or is it like, you're homeless and out on the street? Which one is easier? Everybody says that it's easier during the mundane times. Raise your hand. We have no committals. We have one. Everybody says it's easier during the stressful times. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Most of the time during the stressful times. Why is that?
Because you can't do anything about it yourself. You surrender.
How do you get the ability to surrender during the stressful times and the traumatic times? Does that just happen? Or does that happen during these? I had to have a girl picture in here because the last picture was a guy picture. You will not have to fight this battle alone. Take up your positions and stand firm. See the deliverance of the Lord will give you Judah and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Go out to face them tomorrow, and the Lord will be with you. We just read that. So, a few questions here. Can you see that? Is that too small? What prompted Jehoshaphat to seek the Lord, and how did he respond to the threat of invasion?
I would say it was his habit.
Yeah. Before in 19 and a little bit earlier, it kind of talks about Jehoshaphat as a person. And Jehoshaphat as a person followed in the ways of his ancestors, in his father. He was modeling some behavior there. Who told him to pray and fast?
Nobody told him, he just did it.
He what?
Nobody told him, he just did it.
He just did it. There's no rule book, there's no guidebook. What does this reveal about his leadership and faith?
Leadership was in God, so God basically led the congregation through Jehoshaphat.
Good, great answer. There is a buzzword in the leadership community now called servant leadership. You heard about that? People talk about that. The president of Advent Health wrote a book entitled Servant Leadership. I can't remember his name, but anyway, servant leadership is the new buzzword. Well, not new, and it's around about, how do you lead your team? How do you lead your managers, your mid-levels, your, worker bees, whatever you want to call them, as a servant. Servant leadership. Me as a Christian, this is a pretty good thing to follow. Jehoshaphat did it right. That's what servant leadership looks like to me. How does Jehoshaphat's prayer reflect his understanding of God's character and his past actions? We talked a little bit about that.
Character of Christ's humiliation.
Yeah. Lord, you led us in the past. You gave us this land. Now it's time to show. There's a prayer that Job writes in Job. Lord, in the days gone by, when you were a sunshine in my head and you were blessing my family, etc., etc. That was awesome. Why do I have this today? That's what Jehoshaphat does. Lord, you led us in the past. You gave us this land for a reason. Time to show up right now. Do we do that? Behind Carrie is a little book, a little black book. And it goes back a couple of years. And Andrew and Sharon have written down all the prayer requests, for a while. And just kind of, how often do we write down prayer requests, ... and then the answer, so that we can review it? The ways the Lord led us in the past. We're so easy to forget that. We're so easy to forget what He's done for us, That's so small, I can't read it. What role did the prophet Jehaziel play in this story, and what was God's message through him? We talked a little bit about that, but to recap. Hold fast, stay firm, don't fear. God's got this. You serve a very, very big God. How did Jehoshaphat and the people of Judah respond to God's message?
What's amazing is they trusted Jehoshaphat's leadership. You don't read that they're like, are you nuts? Like, we need to be out getting the horses ready or gearing up.
The action part about this in my Bible is this long? Yeah, that much. Don't you think there was somebody in the camp who were like, you're nuts? Don't you think there were some dissenters? Don't you think there were some people who were like, I don't know who this prophet is, but I'm not following that guy, even though he has such a great pedigree.
They say there's some atheists in Foxville, so I think maybe at that point they were in Foxville.
They were in a foxhole, but you don't know what's between the lines. You don't know what happened. Why were the women and children at the meeting? Why were the women and children at the temple praising God? They were probably there because they were really, really concerned and really worried. They were as much in danger as everybody else, and so they're coming to be a part of this. You don't know, you don't see what's in between the text that's not there, but I can promise you, this was not all right, we're going to go out, we're just going to sing, and we're going to stand on the hill.
Well, they realized realized they had no control, that there was no way they would win this battle. And the problem with us and our ability to trust is a lot of times we think we can control the situation, and so we step out ahead of God. If we could really see the way God thinks and sees, just like the Laodicea message, he's like, you have nothing, you bring nothing to the table. And this is just a spiritual, literal story, and the people realize we have nothing to bring. There is no possible way we're going to win this battle. And Jesus is like, good, now watch me work. Or God says that. And I think that if we live that with that premise in our own lives, that when we have challenges, I mean, we can try to influence things, but we really can't control outcomes in our life. We have to give it to God.
I have no idea what just happened, but anyway, I've lost internet connection. I have no idea why I lost internet connection. But the point of the story is, it looks all fun and dandy. It looks all awesome. It looks all wonderful. But if you start looking at it from today's perspective, what does it look like for our Kearney church?
It looks like we just need to have faith and trust that God has us.
I don't know why this thing is not casting, but I'm going to open up my laptop.
Like
and see if I
Sherry
can-
was saying, we don't have control. We don't know what the future holds, but God does. You know, we have, like Chris said, we've got faith.
I would be remiss if I stopped it there. I do have to go to the very end, and we're not going to read it, but I'm going to tell you about it. Jehoshaphat wasn't perfect. What happened after this battle? We read there in verse 30, and the kingdom of Jehoshaphat was at peace, for God had given him rest on every side. And then it talks about verse 31 to 37, how he strayed from God. I don't know when, I don't know how long later.
He tried to take things into his own hands by making an alliance with someone that wasn't in the roots of God.
He strayed from God and didn't have faith and trust in him.